هذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. As the situation progresses with the virus and the way people are becoming infected and the huge number of souls that we are losing as a result of it, in that process, first we encountered a state of panic, a deep panic within us, because we did not know what is happening, and apparently we are overwhelmed and there's no cure for it. Now that patch has become prolonged, naturally we come to terms with the situation. The panic settles and we acquire a state of relative calm within ourselves. And then we reflect upon the situation and we acknowledge that we have this situation upon us. It's a phenomenal way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the human being, that initially there is panic, there is turbulence within, but when prolonged, we begin to come to terms with it, and we begin to see now, how do we navigate through the stormy waters, and what is the best outcome that we can hope for. In that process also, we come face to face with our mortality, and we begin to admit that actually, yes, we might become unwell and we may die. And to arrive at that level of acceptance is a phenomenal thing in itself. For most part, people do not think of death. It is something that is never going to come upon us, and hence the finer aspects of our humanity that are to be developed, that are to be worked upon, are left unattended. But amidst these crises, we are forced to face our mortality. And through that, we can begin to reflect and think as to what and where we need to be. Here is what we need to understand, that when we read the Quranic verses, when we read the spiritual literature or the advice of the great Prophet of Islam and his blessed brothers who went before him amongst the prophets of God and the imams of the family of the blessed Prophet, we find them giving us one particular advice, that do not be overly attached with anything that leaves you at the point of death, for it was never meant to be yours in the first place. Your over-attachment with it will just add to your distraction from the goal for which you were created. And the other advice that we find from them is, and this comes from the mouths of even those who are not belonging to any faith, and that is, what will you regret at the point of death? That is an indicator of what you should be doing during life. And this is an opportunity for us to think in that way. When people are dying, they understand things very differently. For example, in Nahjul Balagha, Imam Ali says, if only the time that I spent in amassing wealth I had spent elsewhere. Time was important and I wasted that time. If only I were to have given all this wealth away in the way of humanity. Today, I would not be taking the burdens into the hereafter with me. Rather, I would be taking the good pleasure of God with me as I leave this world. The other things we feel at death is, if only I had spent more time with my family. If only I had been more forgiving, more accepting. If only I could have kept relations with my kin and my friends. If only I would have given quality time to myself. If only I would have devoted myself more to God. I would have been more attentive in my prayers. I would have deepened that relationship that I was supposed to have with God. These are the sort of sentiments that dawn upon us when we begin to breathe our last. Not the sentiment that if only I'd worked harder in earning money and leaving it all behind, or I would have been the best one in terms of my prestige in this world. For those things will not matter at that point. What will matter will be how we have become as human beings within ourselves. How much we have gotten to know our God. How much we have served the creatures of God. What sort of quality time we have given to our families and friends. At that point we will realize that all those things that really mattered during our lifetimes really did not matter in the truest sense. The way people offended me, the way I got angry, the way my prestige suffered, the way my arrogance led me, none of those things actually mattered. So those are the sort of sentiments that come upon the people when they begin to die. This is therefore a good opportunity for us to think that all those things that I need to achieve before I breathe my last, here is that opportunity. And the other thing we find is that time is always something that evades us. We are constantly struggling against time. We try to overpower time by creating time, by using technology. We have mobile phones now. We have the internet. Business is done on the go, whilst we are driving, whilst we are traveling. We do all of these things to make the most out of time. Yet time exceedingly becomes less. Time has always been the victor. In this crisis of COVID, we are finding that we have been given ample time. Time is being given back to us. What a phenomenal gift God is giving us through this challenging times. Take your time back. You never have time to devote yourself to God in an attentive manner when you are calm from within, when you're not distracted by work, when you're not distracted by meetings and earning. Now you have all the time. Give that time back to Allah now. He has given it back to us. We never had time to sit with our parents and talk with them. Now we have the time. We never had time to reconnect with our friends. Now we have that beautiful time. In fact, looked upon in this way, after the initial panic, when we reflect upon what is happening and we come to terms with it, we will say, Subhanallah, it might be the greatest blessing in disguise. It might have taken my world away from me, but it has given me back to myself. It was a strange world in which I was attaining everything and I'd lost myself. Everything that didn't matter, I was attaining. I, who mattered, was being lost. Amidst what I call a crisis, everything that didn't matter has faded away, and what matters is given back to me. I'm going to finish this sermon with a reminder from the blessed Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, keep up relations with your kin. And the hadith says that doing that brings blessings within life and increases the lifespan. Allah says again in the Quran, give from your wealth to the needy to the orphans. Hadith says this increases life and wards off calamities and evil. The Quran states, O Prophet, I will not punish them so long as they are seeking forgiveness. This is an opportunity for us to look deep within ourselves and seek forgiveness. This is an opportunity for us to look at those spiritual texts once again. The Quran says, if you thank me, I will increase my favors. One of the greatest favors that Allah has given us is well-being, in addition to life. To actually wake up every morning, like Imam Sajjad says, that, oh Allah, how can I thank you for causing me to awaken on this morning? You could have chosen to make my sleep perpetual. To thank Allah for every blessing that Allah has given us. To acknowledge the beauty that God has created and how He bestows upon us. I will leave us with this note, that when the Mongols attacked the Muslims and they devastated them, some of the Iranian writers write about the invasion of Iran and Nishapur and other areas, that they killed to such a degree that they reduced the population to a mere 20% of what it was. When the Mongols invaded the Muslim lands, that was the time when the Muslims produced some of the best mystics and the Orafa and the Sufis. This rich Sufi tradition excelled and thrived at that point, because when they came and seized power, the souls reverted inwardly and they found the richness of meaning from within. When the outer meaning was lost, they went deep within themselves and they found a very durable meaning, a meaning that is everlasting, and they connected very deeply with their God. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. A recent clip of Mr. Jeremy Corbyn is being circulated on WhatsApp, and it's inspirational. And after hearing him saying those things, we begin to realize the caliber of that man, and that the truth is beyond any religious persuasion. It is very difficult to find such noble people and such righteous, just individuals. In any case, what he said is a reminder for us to come back to an understanding that is befitting humanity. He stated that as people, we overlook the contributions of other people who we deem as low-grade workers. He gave the examples of the refuse workers, the cleaners, the people who stack the shelves at the supermarkets, the cashiers, in addition to the NHS workers, the postal service, and the people who deliver our postage. He said, today, in the lockdown, and amidst this panic and fear that grips us, these are the people who are ensuring the smooth running of life. We need to value them. We cannot just discard them or say that these are low-grade workers. This is not right, it is unjust. Today, he said, it is not the billionaire hedge fund manager who is coming to the assistance of the society. It is these very people who we considered as menial workers who are actually now carrying the whole society upon their shoulders. Had it not been for them, the society would come to a standstill and we would suffer. They are offering the biggest sacrifice right now. They need to be hailed as our heroes and as our masters, quite rightly. And the Quran has said this on so many occasions to the Prophet, that how do you know that this person that is held low in the esteem of the people might be pure at heart, that God might be pleased with him, just because he's poor, just because he's blind, just because there might be a stench to his body and perspiration. How do you know he might be pleasing to God? And this is the way our spiritual literature teaches us, that Allah does not look at your beautiful faces, nor does He look at your statuses and your wealth. Allah sees your hearts, and Allah appreciates your good deeds and your good intentions. We find that we have become so materialistic that we do not have time for those that we do not consider as important. But if my Lord considers them as important, then they are worthier than an emperor and the king of all kings. For the one who is worthy in the sight of God is the most worthy. It's a reminder to us that we now need to learn that a society is made up of different people. All of them are contributing towards the making of a good humanity. This lack of appreciation for the one that we consider lower than us is ungodly, is immoral. This awakening has been a good awakening for us, honestly. We thank Allah for learning so many beautiful lessons. Never again should we undermine one that we consider to be of a low-grade profession or a menial worker. They are not in the sight of God. And today, the billions are doing nothing, but these very souls that are godly are saving humanity. I would like to end on another note, that the preaching that goes on onto the pulpit and the fright that is placed in the hearts of the people that the Messiah will come, I think enough. Talk about our duties at hand. In this part of the world, our supermarkets are still stacked up with food. We still have incomes. The government has made provisions for those who have lost their jobs. And of course, we still need to do more work, but then there are areas of the earth in which there is a huge disparity and gulf between the rich and the poor. Take, for example, India. In Pakistan, we have a scenario where there is a lot of philanthropy. But in Africa, again, we have a problem. We need to think that our ship is caught in stormy, turbulent waters. We need to navigate through these waters carefully to ensure that the majority of humanity makes it. The Quranic advice is the one that has been given by every faith tradition, that it is incumbent duty upon a neighbor to look after their neighbors. All of us need to practice neighborliness. If everybody in India, Pakistan, Africa, and we people who are in a prospering position, if we can also part with our excess wealth for our family, then this is the great challenge right now and a great opportunity. If we can all look after our neighbors, we will not see them starving to death. For more than the virus, it will be starvation that kills them. This is a duty incumbent upon us, and we are not doing a favor on them. God has given us to give and share with His family. It was never ours. I didn't choose the location of my birth. The parents to whom I was born to, the political and socio-political circumstances in which I was born, this was all given to me. I didn't choose my genetic makeup, the way I think. It was all given to me. If as a result of that I have gained from the bounties of God, then it is not through my own personal attainment. It is God who has given it to me. And I need to give back to my family and His family. It is not a favor that I'm doing to them. And the other thing we must realize is, foolish are the minds that hoard for tomorrow when they cannot guarantee their tomorrow. And arrogant are the souls who want to secure their tomorrow and disregard God. I would much rather rely upon God for my tomorrow, as a bird that flies from the nest, having full confidence that the one that has given it wings will ensure that the sustenance reaches it wherever it may fly to. I would much rather be in that state than to try and gain control in terms of attaining my sustenance for tomorrow and not relying on God instead. In fact, if I do that, then the advice I'm being given by the Prophet and the Imams is that your life will be cut short. If you rely on God instead and give away to others, your Lord will be pleased and not stop sustaining you and making you a means to spread His beauty amongst His creatures. Let's recite Surah Fatiha for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring a swift end to these crises, and for the souls who have left us in these crises and those who went before them, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them. Al-Fatiha.